The moment the interview clip dropped, the internet practically caught fire. Jamie Dornan was sitting comfortably in a studio chair, answering harmless, predictable questions, career updates, upcoming projects, the typical Hollywood stuff. Everything felt normal until the interviewer shifted the tone, leaned forward, and asked about something no one expected. "Jamie, did you ever get too caught up in your scenes with Dakota Johnson?" The smile on Jamie's face changed instantly. It wasn't shock. It wasn't discomfort. It was something else, something warmer, softer, almost nostalgic. He laughed, but not the kind of laugh that dismisses a question. It was the kind of laugh that reveals more than it hides. Fans recognized it immediately. Within minutes, the short clip was uploaded, clipped, slowed down, and analyzed by millions. Jamie didn't dodge the question. In fact, he leaned into it. "What people don't realize," he began, "is that filming those scenes required an insane level of trust. Dakota brought an intensity, an energy, that was really hard not to react to." His voice softened on the last words, and fans nearly lost their minds. TikTok flooded with edits titled, "He admitted it." And that was only the beginning. As the interview continued, Jamie explained how those scenes weren't just hot in the way fans imagined. They were emotionally suffocating, psychologically intimate, and incredibly demanding. "There were moments," he said, "when everything around us disappeared. Cameras, lights, people, it all faded." The internet exploded. One fan wrote, "He wasn't acting, he was experiencing." Another said, "Someone check on Amelia because, wow." But the real chaos began when behind-the-scenes clips resurfaced. Clips showing Jamie watching Dakota between takes, quietly observing her as she prepared for scenes. Clips where he lingered a second longer after the director yelled, "Cut." Clips where their chemistry seemed to rise off the screen like heat waves. Fans claimed those clips were proof. Proof Jamie had been telling the truth. Proof he wasn't just professionally engaged, he was emotionally invested. Crew members from past interviews had said Dakota and Jamie were locked in, completely tuned to each other, and lost in their own atmosphere whenever the camera rolled. These comments, once overlooked, suddenly resurfaced with new meaning. Everything Jamie said seemed to confirm what fans had suspected for nearly a decade. But nothing stirred the fandom quite like the moment Jamie said, "Dakota had this pull, this gravitational pull. Once we began a scene, it was hard to break away." Fans broke the replay button. Reactions flooded the internet. He admitted the addiction. This man just confessed to the emotional crime of the century. No wonder those scenes felt too real. Jamie went even deeper, saying something no one expected in such a public interview. "Everyone thinks those scenes were technical or choreographed. But the truth is, Dakota made them feel alive. She made them feel human." His eyes drifted away, as though remembering something he didn't intend to share. He didn't praise the director. He didn't praise the writing. He praised her. And fans noticed. One viral tweet read, "He didn't say he was addicted to the scenes. He said he was addicted to the energy." Same thing. Meanwhile, body language experts jumped in, creating full 15-minute videos analyzing Jamie's shifting posture, softened gaze, and the way he touched the chair arm when talking about Dakota. They claimed the reaction wasn't casual, it was visceral. Even the host seemed surprised by Jamie's level of honesty. At one point, she asked playfully, "So are you telling us you were hooked?" Jamie paused, smiled slowly, and replied, "Let's just say, it was very hard to walk away from those moments." Cue global meltdown. People began combing through every interview Jamie ever gave about Dakota, pulling quotes where he praised her instincts, her generosity, her emotional intelligence. Suddenly, lines like, "Dakota is unlike anyone I've worked with," took on a whole new meaning. Fans argued this wasn't a man recalling professional collaboration. This was a man reliving something deeper, something he struggled to fully articulate. By the end of the interview, It was clear Jamie had opened a door he probably didn't intend to. A door that led back to a time when he and Dakota were locked in one of the most intense on-screen partnerships Hollywood had ever seen. The final moment of the interview became the cliffhanger of the decade. The host asked, "Jamie, would you say those scenes with Dakota were the most unforgettable of your career?" Jamie didn't smile. He didn't joke. He didn't deflect. He looked down, then back up with a quiet, devastating honesty and said, "Yes, absolutely." And the world knew. This was only the beginning of what he would reveal next. When the interview resumed, Jamie seemed almost aware that he had revealed more than he planned. He shifted in his seat, trying to regain his usual composure. But the host wasn't done, and neither was the global audience watching him with breathless curiosity. "Jamie," she said softly, "what made those scenes with Dakota so unforgettable?" Jamie's eyes flickered with something unguarded. He hesitated for a moment, as if weighing how honest he was willing to be. Then he spoke with a candor that felt too real for a Hollywood press tour. "It wasn't the scenes themselves," he explained. "It was what Dakota brought into them." His voice lowered, almost instinctively. "She had this ability to make everything feel emotionally charged," he continued. "Not forced, not scripted, just natural." He described how Dakota could shift from vulnerability to intensity within seconds. "That kind of presence is addictive for an actor," he admitted. "You want to stay in that space longer than you should." Fans exploded the moment the clip hit social media. People wrote, "He finally said addictive," while others stitched his reaction into hundreds of edits. Analysts broke down his tone, insisting it carried long-buried truth. And for once, even journalists admitted Jamie had crossed into territory he usually avoided. Jamie leaned forward as though confessing to something he had kept quiet for years. "There were moments," he said carefully, "when I wasn't sure where the character ended and where real emotion began." The host's eyes widened, the audience leaned closer, and fans everywhere screamed into their screens. He didn't stop there. Jamie continued, "Dakota has this softness that hits you unexpectedly. Even when the scene was intense, she found a way to make it feel safe." He smiled slightly, remembering something private. "That kind of connection stays with you." The host asked the question everyone wanted. "Did you ever feel like you didn't want the scenes to end?" Jamie looked down, a shy grin curling at the edges of his lips. "Yeah," he said quietly. "More times than I'd like to admit." The fandom detonated instantly. He explained that after some scenes, he needed time to come back to himself. "My heart would be racing," he revealed. "It wasn't just adrenaline. It was something else." His honesty carried a weight that no one could ignore. She made everything feel too real. Then came the moment that set the internet on fire. Jamie said, "People think we were acting intimacy. But sometimes, it felt like we were exploring something neither of us fully understood at the time." That sentence alone generated millions of views in minutes. Fans declared it the confession of the decade. But the drama grew even hotter when Dakota was asked about Jamie's comments the next day. She laughed softly, that familiar quiet laugh that fans instantly recognized. "Jamie always says too much when he's being sincere," she teased. But then her expression softened. "He was an incredible partner. We shared something very rare." The interviewer asked directly, "Did you know he felt that strongly?" Dakota nodded with surprising honesty. "Yes," she said, "but it wasn't one-sided. Those scenes were intense for me too." Fans completely imploded. Hashtags skyrocketed globally. Shipping edits returned stronger than ever. Back on Jamie's side, he continued explaining the emotional effect of working with Dakota. "The trust between us was total," he said. "When someone gives you that much openness, you lean into it without even realizing." He acknowledged that the connection became its own force. "You can't rehearse that," he added. "You just respond to it." A crew member from the films had once mentioned that they disappeared into each other during certain takes. Jamie now confirmed it indirectly. "Sometimes," he said, "it felt like the world outside the scene didn't exist." His voice was steady, but the vulnerability underneath it was unmistakable. And when the director called cut, it was jarring. The host leaned in for one final, risky question. Jamie, were you addicted to those scenes because of Dakota? He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He simply nodded. Yes, he said softly. I think a part of me was. The world erupted. Comment sections flooded instantly. People wrote, he finally admitted everything. Others said, this is beyond chemistry. This is history. And thousands insisted this was the most honest Jamie had ever been about Dakota. Jamie ended the interview with one last breathtaking line. Some experiences stay with you forever, he said. And working with Dakota was one of them. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't explicit. But it was the closest thing to a confession fans had ever gotten. And now, the world is asking just one question. If Jamie Dornan was truly addicted to those moments, what feelings still remain today?